Hello and welcome to Big Deal. It's taxing times when it comes to the government's collection of revenue. And on the other hand, also tax operations and processes are an important and integral part of every company. So even that needs a lot more clarity. But the big question that we are also asking today on Big Deal is that, is the government going to use taxes and duties to infuse first demand and consumption in the market, and on the other hand, also for pushing the Atmanirbhar Bharat theme for the Indian indigenous manufacturers? To discuss all this, I have a panel of experts joining me today. Rajiv Dimri of KPMG, Anuprita Mehta from Piramal Enterprises, S. Sridhar, MD of Pfizer India, Binoy Krishna, who heads tax globally for Tata Communications. Women and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC TV 18. First, let's start by asking Anuprita. Now, your company, Anuprita, spans from pharma as well as to NBFC space. As a tax expert, what is the kind of hurdles that your industry is facing right now?
Yeah. So, from the NBFC perspective, we are having issues in terms of the liquidity crunch, as everybody knows. Now, to facilitate the ease of the cash crunch, it would be good if the government really exempts the requirement to do TDS on interest payments to the NBFCs the way it is exempted today for the banks. Secondly, also, as far as the NPA provisioning is concerned, now typically an assessee is not granted a tax deduction for any provisions that he makes in his books, but exemption is granted to banks or NBFCs to the extent of a tax deduction which they can claim for 5% of the total income or the actual provision that they make in the books. Now, this 5% limit should be increased to say 10 or 15%, because we know that there are going to be NPAs that are coming, and that's not going to result into any tax leakage for the government, because anyways, if you recover those bad debts, you're going to offer those for tax, or even if the provision relates to actual bad debts, then you won't be claiming a double deduction in any case. But for facilitating ease of liquidity, the exemption should be, extended to maybe a 10% or a 15% provision. So this is with the NBFC sector. As regards the pharma sector, we are still facing some issues around refunds. While, of course, the intent of the government is to grant refunds expeditiously, but on a practical level, that's really not happening. And it's also because of the lockdown. The officers are not able to go to the tax office. Likewise, in our case, we may not be able to go to our own offices to upload so many documents that are required for granting the refunds. So this is really causing some problems, while the intent of the government is to release refunds as soon as possible.
Right. Thanks, Anuprita, for that. In fact, it gave a lot of understanding of the market, and I'll go to the other industries as well. But first, coming to a tax expert, then Rajiv, in your analysis, two most important issues that the government faced in terms of its tax collection as well as refund, do you think has stabilized to a large extent now, looking at the latest GST collection and also the kind of tax refunds that the government has managed to do? What's your analysis on these two aspects?
So let me take the refund pass first. I think, both for direct and indirect taxes in the past couple of months, government has processed record numbers, and that credit must go to the government. But has all refunds been, granted to the assessees? Answer is no. So significant progress has been made. And I think this is an area where the government can do more and make sure that the money of the people is returned to them, because at this point in time, it is needed far more than any other time. On the GST collection, we all saw the numbers for the month of June. I don't think that should be used as a basis to say our economic activity is back to 90%. I think the June collection has, of course, that month, but a lot of collections of the previous months, which the taxpayers are allowed to defer, that payment has come in. So I don't think we should start celebrating June refund, June tax collection as an indication that we are back to 90%.
That's a very, very important point coming out, Rajiv. Of course, we have to tread very cautiously and see whether the economic realities really are aligning with the GST targets that the government has set for itself for this particular financial year. Coming to Ash Sridhar from Pfizer. Now, your sector is looking very good. I don't think will be a problem in terms of giving revenues to the government. But what are the tax hurdles that you as an MNC firm is also facing? And how are we coping with this COVID-19 situation vis-a-vis your other counterparts, other geographies, Sridhar?
So thank you for inviting me, Nisha, out here. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I want to thank the government for whatever effort they've been doing over the last few months to revive the economy. I think it's not easy for the government to manage so many sectors at the same time because it's the first time you're having all sectors getting impacted. So I personally want to thank the government for making all the efforts. Coming specifically to MNCs and some of the challenges, I would urge on a few areas. One, as you all know, for MNCs, transfer pricing is a big area where we file our returns very early. And this year, given the margin challenges, there will be high expenses, the margins are going to be impacted. So it might be good if the government takes a consideration and does not resort to the standard margin principles, because none of us will meet the margin principles, and give a lot of credit to the past assessments, what we have done. And if you have done a good assessment the previous year, give us the leeway rather than trying to make it a non-arm's length. So that's one big area. Otherwise, you could have huge litigations for multinational companies. The second area is, I think the pharmaceutical industry has been managing the business continuity really effectively from day one. Not in a single day we have stopped our supplies into our patients. And one area where government can help us to enable the cash flow is on stock transfer, we end up paying GST on a fair market value. And as a result, what happens is the cash flow goes out and a lot of money gets stuck up at different locations because the actual selling price is lower than the fair market value, because the last few months we've been offering a lot of discounts to the trade in order to make sure we give them the working capital support in quite a few areas. So it would be a good idea if they can take the stock transfer value at, say, 50% of the fair market value, and then that gives us a cash flow for the companies like us to manage it. The third area is, I think Anupriya rightly said, we need to digitalize entirely the tax assessments. Even tribunal hearings, we are filing a lot of tax papers. I'm urging the government to use COVID opportunity to complete digitalize the entire process of tax assessment, do a video recording. It can increase compliance and make life easy for a lot of assessees. It can actually make smaller assessees also come on to the assessment table much faster. And lastly, I think with the introduction of the dividend tax, most companies, when it comes to NRI payments, they've got different tax slabs for different NRIs. If we can streamline and make a single tax slab for all NRI payments, it will make operations far more easier. That's what I would say.
All right. So barrage of suggestions there. I hope the policymakers and the tax authorities are really listening. But coming to you, Vinoy, any specific issues that your company or your industry is facing in terms of the tax refunds as well as clarity, so that you do not land up locking in a lot of cash, which you would require necessarily at this point?
Yeah. Thanks, Nisha, for inviting me on this panel. Everyone knows that telecom industry per se is struggling from the cash liquidity perspective. One of the challenges which all the industries are facing is about lower deduction of tax certificate from the department. The department has extended the period of the last year LDC, which in short we call it, to 30th June, which if it can be extended for the full year, then it will increase the cash flow in the hands of the companies, and it will improve the cash efficiency with the companies. So that one request would be to, in fact, extend the period from 30th June to the whole year of the lower TDS certificate. One is that the second challenge which we are facing is, in fact, the whole industries are facing. There are lots of a stay has been granted by the tax tribunal in the past, and these are all the past issues, where every 6 months the tax tribunal has to extend the stay granted in past. If it can be clarified by the government that that stay granted can be extended for full year, then all the hassles appearing before the courts and involving the lawyer, submitting the documents, all these things will go away in at least in this COVID period. In case the demand is still not recovered for this. The third thing I would suggest that wherever any scrutiny notices have been sent to the companies and the refunds are due for those years, at least the refund should be granted to the companies, because in any case, the government recovers, or there is a law that you can recover up to 20% of the tax demand. If the refund is more than that, then that will help to the companies if the refund can be granted to the all those companies. That's all three or four points which we thought that it will help the companies and telecom industry per se to survive this COVID situation.
Right. So we've got an overall view and the picture on what the corporates are really dealing with. Rajiv, how do you assess this situation, and how many clarifications are you also dealing with?
Well, it's a daily affair. I mean, all these points that you heard are real issues. These are not minor clerical matters. These are real issues, because at the end of the day, as you saw, the whole focus of everybody is how do we minimize cash outflow, because cash is king, and that statement was never more true than today. But soon the focus will also have to shift to how do you create demand, because the economy has to come back. And, you know, there will have to be government intervention by creating demand. Now, whether that's going to be by way of partially or temporarily reducing GST rates. Also, remember, in this particular year, the government will have more, we should focus more on GST, because that's a monthly collection. Income taxes will happen at the end of the year if companies have profits, whereas GST is going to be a more recurring revenue for the government, and that cycle has to get kick-started because of consumption. So as we come out of the lockdown, we'll have to bring people back into shopping, because everybody's holding back their cash, everybody's minimizing their expenses, and that cycle will have to start. And I think that's the most delicate thing that the government will have to achieve. It's a balancing of their own revenue and kick-starting economy.
I'm glad that you mentioned it's balancing of the government revenue, looking at the economic affairs right now, and the way also our government acted so aggressively on the excise duty on fuel. Do you think the government has the mindset of using tax tools for consumption growth, or they would use other tools for that?
I think it will be, and I genuinely mean that, I think it will have to be a balance. At the same time, the government will have to find ways of raising tax revenue. So, you know, we've already seen the advent of, you know, equalization levy, which has, you know, come in. That would certainly be a revenue. But just because we need more revenue doesn't mean we don't need to do things to incentivize consumption. I think it will be a bit of both. So if revenues have to be raised, there'll be other ways of doing that. And, you know, digital tax, while of course it is hotly debated, is a tax that has now come in already. But just because we are hungry for revenue, we will also have to make sure, because against all this consumption lies all the jobs and economic activity. We can't allow that to falter.
All right, let me bring in then Vinoy also in this discussion on specifically on the foreign investor mindset. Now, we know that tax uncertainty has been one of the biggest problems that the FDI has found in India. In fact, that has stalled many FDIs because the other investors find it uncertain to bake in the tax component, which could be changing. So continuity as well as certainty is very important. From your point of view, you have an interface with the global clients as well as investors. How are they viewing this situation, and how is India performing in that respect?
See, India is still a great place for the foreign companies as well as investors, and they just like that there should be a certainty either on the tax front or on the legal front or any other front. So all they are looking for, if they are investing money into India, they need to ensure that next 5 years or 10 years, there is no change in the law, abruptly change in the law. Like equalization levy, which came suddenly in the Finance Act, not in the Finance Bill, and it suddenly got implemented in law. All companies are looking for, at least they should be given some kind of time so that they can plan their affair. They can put some kind of technology to ensure that the compliances can be done within the time frame. So that's all they look for. They are not saying that they will not comply, but they will comply, but subject to certain timelines and time is given to them. That's all they would like to get that from India. And I think we should think about that direction.
Right. Anuprita, talking about the residency laws, and we know that a lot of foreign nationals who are working out of India also partly are stranded here because of the lockdown. How do you see this situation, and is there more clarity required from the departments and the policymakers?
Yeah, so, as in all countries, even India determines a taxed residential status of a person based on the number of days stay in India. So the government has already clarified that if, non-residents who are in India and are stranded because of COVID, lockdown or evacuation flights not being available, then those number of days would be excluded from, counting the number of days presence in India. Now, it may so happen that because of the individual's extended stay in India, there could be certain corporate tax issues that may arise. For example, a permanent establishment issue. So if a foreign employee is stranded in India and substantially for, say, 6 months or so, then there could be an exposure of a fixed place permanent establishment for the foreign enterprise in India. Likewise, if a board member of a foreign company is stranded in India, and if he's, of course, attending to his day-to-day work and the board meetings he's attending also from India, and certain, critical management decisions are taken from India, then India has a tax law which says that such foreign company could be deemed to have a place of effective management in India, which means that it will be exposed to taxation in India. Now, government should come out with a clarification to say that because of COVID, if any foreign employee is stranded in India, then it should not trigger a permanent establishment or a place of effective management for such foreign employee, for the foreign companies in India. Now, OECD has come up with such guidelines, but of course, they are not binding on, India. So a clarification on this regard is really awaited.
Right. Sridhar, comment on this. Transfer pricing could also be a big issue for especially companies like yourself to understand how to really calculate and how to go about it in these times.
So, like I said, the government has to give credit to the past assessments, what we have done, the kind of returns, what we have filed, the kind of margins we have displayed last time, the honesty at which people have done it. They cannot use the same yardstick of a 2 to 6% margin every time, this year at least, because most of us have incurred fixed costs significantly this year. We have paid for wages, we have kept the factories running, we kept our offices running, we ensured business continuity. So margin structure and the sales have been significantly impacted. So our sales is not going to be in line with what happened last. So no way we are going to make a standard arm's length margin this year, and we cannot be expecting our parent companies to give subvention every time. So this is a very unique year, not just for India, across everybody. So I think they should give credit to everybody.
All right. So everybody is asking for some sort of a dispensation given the unprecedented nature of these circumstances. And Rajiv, come in on this. Final word to you very quickly. 2 aspects to be watched out for when it comes to the entire tax regime in the coronavirus times. First, whether the government is going to bring down some of the GST rates as the industry has been asking in front of us. And on the other hand, how is the government going to use this tool and duties in terms of also furthering the Atmanirbhar Bharat push at this point, because there has been a lot of talk about customs duties as well as other duties being increased.
So let me start with the second point. I think the program that is being run for Atman Bharat is, being done in a more structured manner. It's not just taxes and duties, but the rest of the enabling environment, the environment for permissions, including some of the restrictions that are being imposed. Now, tariff and non-tariff barriers are a fair play, given, of course, the overall guidelines of WTO. But it's a fair play. If India is a large consumer of certain items, it is entitled to create an ecosystem where there is large production of that happens here, whether we talk of medical devices, electronics, even defense. So I think that's a fair play. But those are long-term programs. It will take time for that ecosystem to generate, entrepreneurs to come in, have the whole manufacturing being done here. Whereas on the other hand, the stimulation required for kickstarting the economy is a temporary interim measure. Nobody is asking for a permanent reduction. If intervention is needed for next 3 months, next 4 months, next 5 months, I think that is independent. And of course, the self-reliant program, I think, of course, that is to do with, creating jobs, that is to creating, more dependent and not relying on foreign exchange or the outgo that happens. So I think, to me, the timelines for these two programs are completely independent and have to be pursued independently. The intervention needed today to make sure that the businesses come back to life, I think some intervention is needed here. That has happened before. When 2008, 2009, a type of economic crisis happened, there were interventions given by temporary reductions. I think something like that will happen. The big bet is, will we see new taxes, or will we see some other type of enhanced taxes or surcharges? Who knows? All of those things are, I'm sure, on the on the possibility list.
All right. So you've summed it up very well, Rajiv Dimri. Of course, there has been a lot of demands from the industry, and tax collection as well as refund needs to be streamlined even further from what the government has already achieved, is the big ask also coming in from the industry experts and the tax heads of various countries, companies. Now, with that, we end this discussion only on the note that tax dialogues will continue, because this is an essential part of every company, an integral part, and many changes are likely to happen as the government simplifies the processes post the lockdown in the COVID-19 situation. With that, it's a wrap on Big Deal. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Nisha.